This is Elevate with Trish, your space to grow, heal, and rise. Hi, I'm Trish Mangold, and welcome to the very first episode of Elevate with Trish, a space where we keep it real and explore what it really takes to find balance, optimize our potential, and thrive through every season of life. Today's episode is very close to my heart. Our guest is someone I've admired for a long time, and lucky for me, she's a dear friend. She's been known to lovingly nudge me straight out of my comfort zone, including this very moment. She's the radiant heart and soul behind Delphine Circle and the founder of Harmoneum, a global community that's all about personal growth, daily frequency shifts, and deeper connection. Delphine is a life coach, bringing insight, fire, high frequency to everything she touches, and she doesn't just dream, she takes action and elevates everyone around her. I've had the pleasure of being a 2-time guest on her podcast, Delphine Circle, and today I get to flip the script and drop into her story and the lessons that continue to shape the powerhouse woman that we see today. So let's get to it. Delphine Channels, welcome to Elevate with Trish. I'm thrilled to be diving into your world today.
Aw, thanks, honey. That's so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it, and I'm very touched by those words. Thank you.
Well, I mean every bit of it.
Thank you.
It's just been such a joy to watch you over the years and to be part of seeing the transformations and the things that you're developing. So I thought we'd just take this opportunity to start at the beginning. And I'm just curious, was there a defining moment or pivotal experience that first set you on your path to personal transformation?
You know, there's probably been many of them. One that comes to mind specifically was probably about the age of 19. I was getting ready to go on a trip to see my mom, a relationship that had been challenging most of my life. And my dad asked me, how do you feel about going to see your mom? And I said, I don't know. I'm not really that excited about it. And he said, honey, you gotta let go of everything. You can't continue to hold, stress against your mom. And he said, life is walk across a hot desert. He said, be careful what you carry with you. And I remember thinking Dad, you don't know what you're talking about. And, you haven't been through what I've been through. But the next day on the plane, I really started reflecting on his words. And I thought, what, he's right. I don't want to carry this. I don't want to feel hurt and upset and, wounded for the rest of my life. I really do want to let it go. And I want to forgive my mom, and I really took that flight thinking about it. And when we got off the plane and my mom greeted me there, I just grabbed her and I gave her the biggest hug. And we both just started crying.
Wow.
And, my mom said, I'm so sorry. And I said, I'm so sorry. And it was such a beautiful moment. I still remember it to this day. And, years later, my mom told me that it was at that moment with my forgiveness that she was finally able to forgive herself. And
Wow.
I didn't really know that would have such an impact on her. And I remember that one experience, it taught me a couple things. One of them is it taught me about your story. We decide that this is our story and that we almost give ourselves permission to be a victim. And when I just decided, I don't want that to be my story anymore, that I had a challenging childhood. I don't need that to be my story, and I can just move forward. So that was very helpful. The other thing that I learned was about the power of forgiveness. That by forgiving her, not only did I release myself from the burden of carrying all of that hurt and anger and judgment, but the other side of that was a beautiful growth opportunity on her part. And so I do remember thinking, and I think the third thing about that was the mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
Understanding that from one day to the next, I just decided that I wasn't going to carry that. And it was just a decision I made within myself. Nothing externally happened, maybe my dad's conversation, but it was really a decision that I made within myself. And so all of those lessons, I think, compounded to help me see later in life that all of these things that go into a mindset and forgiveness and all of these things are now what I teach in coaching.
Oh, that's just beautiful. And, I really appreciate you opening up and being so real and vulnerable with that. Such an intimate story that's so close and near and dear to your heart. And I always, and forgiveness is such a huge piece to it, right? It's not for the other person so much, but for yourself and for your mom and you to come together in that moment and have that just kind of strip away and release and bring you guys closer. What a beautiful, tender moment.
It really was.
I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
So before stepping into the role of life coach, what were you doing?
Good question.
Seems like so long ago, maybe.
Well, I think you've touched on it. I'm a doer. So I've been a serial entrepreneur most of my life. I had an event marketing agency. I had a cosmetic company. In 2020, I found myself having the 2020 experience is what I like to call it, and really rethinking, what is it that I want to do with the rest of my life, and how does what's happening fit into that, and how do I make the most out of it? And I was watching a commercial for it was an advertisement for a coaching certification program, and without the second slightest thought, I just went online. I signed up for it. I was like, paid my little money, and I woke up the next morning. I thought, why did I do that? I've never thought that I want to be a life coach. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to enjoy the study of it. And I have a little time on my hands, and, maybe it'll make me a better person. And, but as soon as I got into the practice of it, I was like, this is it. This is really cut out for me. And I just never looked back. I love personal development. I love growth. I love working with people. I like connecting on a deeper level. I love conversations. And this is everything that I love.
I love that. Let's talk about using time wisely when we had some downtime in 2020.
Exactly.
And so if you had to distill a few words down to like what insights or truths that truly moved the needle for you, and maybe you're pulling those threads through the work that you do with your life coaching, is there anything you'd like to share there or some commonalities?
Yes. As a matter of fact, well, there's two that come to mind. And the first one is self-love. One of the things that I found in coaching is that it all comes down to self-love. And your level of self-love dictates every relationship around you. It dictates how you are going to interact with people. You will only be loved at the level of self-love, right? Because we know that energy attracts energy. So if you have a low self-esteem, if you don't think very highly of yourself, you're going to attract other relationships in your life that are also not going to value you. But if you think highly of yourself, if you look out for yourself, if you draw your boundaries, if you treat yourself with self-love and self-care, then you will attract people in your life that will also treat you on that level. So I always say in between relationships is the most important time, because you should be putting all of that time and energy into yourself. Because the more that you build up your self-love, your self-respect, your self-care, the more that you're going to attract somebody on a higher level when you do attract somebody. So yes, so self-love is definitely one of them. And I would say the second thing is authenticity. And as you know, because I do a retreat on authenticity, to me it is the most powerful aspect that we can bring out. And the reason being is authenticity is when you align your actions with your values, your priorities, your goals, the things that are important to you, and then you live your life in that mode. And so many people have not even really thought about, if you ask people, well, what are the values that are most important to you, or your priorities or your goals? Oftentimes, people don't really know what they are. And what I've found in coaching is that the more people are understanding what their values are, understanding what their priorities, their goals are, the more they can align their life and the happier of a life that they're going to have. So for sure.
I love that. And so what have you seen when you say authenticity? Is that a feeling, or how do you know when you're being authentic and it's not something you're forcing, or that you're just arriving to? Is it something you just arrive to be at through some sort of exercises, or what does that look like?
Well, in the retreats, we do exercises to help us uncover what they are. And I think it starts with fully understanding what your values are, because your values are basically the guidelines, right? Or the rules that you like to operate within in your life. And so to understand those, it gives you a better course. It helps you to stay on path. One of the things that I will say, it's an easy way, is radical honesty. Being 100% honest in your word and in your deed. And now, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm pretty honest. I mean, some white lies. What's the difference?" And it's probably truth. It's probably not going to make or break anything. But when you practice radical honesty, what's really different is how you feel about yourself. The way that you can hold your head high when you know you are coming from a completely authentic place and that you're truly reflecting who you are there's a sense of self-confidence that comes over you. There's a sense of self-respect. And we're more critical of ourselves than anybody else, right? So when when you're not being completely honest or completely truthful. So just that one act of radical honesty, tell people, just try it for 1 week. Just see if you absolutely could not say, even when the wife says, honey, do you like this dress? You got to come up with a creative way to say it. And we practice that in the retreats. We actually practice creative communication because that's what it comes down to, you know? We all want to come from a place of lovingness. We don't want to be harsh or critical. And that's not what radical honesty is about. You still want to be creative with your thoughts, but it's about being true to yourself.
Oh, I love that. Because I feel like when you're speaking your truth, you're feeling seen and heard. And then that enriches the relationships and the quality of communication and effective communication.
Yeah, people think that people will be upset with them if they're honest. And the reality of it is, if you think about the people in your life who are honest, even sometimes maybe, brutally honest, there is a respect that we have for people, you know? Let's just take if you invited me over for dinner that night and I just didn't really want to go. I didn't really have an excuse. I just didn't really want to go. If I would have said, Trish, thank you so much. I so appreciate that you're so kind to offer. But this night, I just need some downtime. I just need a little one-on-one. Like, wouldn't you just respect that and go, you know what? Good for you. And I'm going to say that next time I need a little downtime, right? Instead of me saying, oh, honey, the work is crazy. The kids, the dog, the dog, I just can't leave the dog. It's got to be fed. We default to these excuses and they're all like culturally acceptable. Everybody knows you can blame it on your husband, your kids, or the dog, and nobody's going to question it. But when we are honest and we just truly say what's in our heart, it's funny how that frequency, it's an energetic field that we tap into when we come from that place of honesty. And people actually really do respect it, I think.
Very empowering. So you've explored such a wide range of healing practices. And I'm so curious, like from breath work to frequencies to enzyme cleanses and fasting, plant medicines, like what kind of moved the needle for you? And what are you still weaving through your daily practices that's near and dear to your self-care and self-love?
Oh my God, how much time do we got? Well, it's so funny because you and I, we have this in common and we share a lot of these same things. I do a lot. I'm a biohacker, I will say. I love all my technologies. I take some supplements, I don't go crazy with the supplements, but I do take some supplements. But if I were to say one thing that has moved the needle the most for me, it has to be daily meditation. When I got into daily meditation, it was such a game changer in my life. And, like others, I had tried it. I had dabbled in it here and there. And, I'd say, oh, gosh, this isn't for me. I just can't quiet my mind. This is really hard. I'm just too active of a thinker. And I am one of those people. You know that about me. I'm a doer. But everybody has the ability to meditate. And it just takes practice. That's why they call it a practice, right? It's like somebody that would get out on the tennis court and, miss a couple balls and say, I can't play tennis. Well, you can, you just need a little bit more practice. And when I started getting into daily meditation, a couple things happened. One of the things happened was I respected myself so much. I was so proud of myself for committing that time. And when I got into the habit of, and even just after a month of doing it, because I actually started with a 30-day challenge. And they said, okay, 30 days. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. I can do that for 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, I was so proud of myself. And I was like, wow, I really did it. And I've gotten a lot better. And then I was motivated to try a little bit harder. The second thing that happened was I really started realizing how much more grounded and centered I felt as I went through my day. It was such a powerful, energetic reset for me. And for somebody who's always go, 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 I really saw the benefit of that right away. And then the third thing about it was I really started seeing how my mental processes got clearer as well. So it wasn't just a physical, energetic reset. It also, I started feeling more clear mentally. I started feeling more, aligned with my higher self. Like there was an intuitive connection that I was finding. And from that point forward, I was just like, I'm all in. There's just so many benefits with so little effort. And I did get better with it as time went on. Surprise, surprise.
Well, I'm curious, like, are you using tools to drop into that state, or are you just Do you just close your eyes? Do you focus on like a candle flame, or what are your when the mind gets busy, how do you bring yourself back internally?
That's
Do you
a great
let
question.
it in focus, or is there a theme that you try to focus on? How does that
So
work?
I started with guided meditation.
Okay.
And I think that's probably the easiest for most people is to find a recorded meditation that you listen to, and you can close your eyes, lay down with your earphones or um, however you listen to it. And I just followed along with what was being said, and that slowly helped me to drop into it. After that, I went to a Dr. Joe Dispenza retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody's had the opportunity to go to a Joe Dispenza retreat, it was life-changing for me. It's 7 days of about 6 hours of meditation a day.
Wow.
And from there, I really learned how to quiet my mind on my own. And I really realized that there's a very big difference between guided meditation and quiet meditation. Guided meditation is very good at learning how to train your brain and to train your thoughts. But when you do quiet meditation, it releases all of these. It's very similar to fasting in that it releases a lot of chemicals in our body that is incredibly good for healing, incredibly good for clarity. It's a total body reset. And that quiet meditation also is your opportunity to listen. It gives you the quiet allows you to hear a very inner voice that's very quiet and only speaks to you when you can hear it in that with no other sound around. So I do both now. And then I also have a third way with Brain Tap. It's a device, a meditation device, and it uses 3 different modalities, light, sound, binaural beats, guided meditation. And it really helps you to go into a very deep meditative state. And you don't have to know how to meditate at all.
Yeah.
Brain Tap works amazing.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
My husband Guy, who you know well, I got that for him for Christmas, but he's like, I've used it a few times, but for Father's Day, he tapped into it again. And, it's fun to see him kind of incorporating his fasting lifestyle and some meditation and bits and pieces. It's kind of by osmosis. It's getting there. So,
And it's fun. And this is what I always tell my clients. It's like, don't take everything so seriously. It's like there's no bad way. Every meditation is a great meditation, right? Every fast is a great fast. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be flawless. Just the fact that you're trying and you're making an effort is already a step in the right direction.
so a quick question just before we leave the meditation. What, on average, like how much time do you spend a day, like just in your quiet space?
It varies depending on what my schedule is, but I always start my day with meditation.
Very
And for me, as soon as I open my eyes, I know that I'm already halfway there. So I really try to take that opportunity to just go straight into meditation right after I wake up. Typically, I sit up in bed and I usually put a pillow in front of me and I kind of lean into the pillow. The reason why I sit up is because if you continue to lay down, the chances that you'll fall back asleep are much higher. Dr. Joe teaches us to sit up, and so I follow directions. And so I do sit up. When you're sitting up, your chances of falling back to sleep are much lower. And then I just try to get as quiet as I possibly can. I oftentimes will pull out and do a guided meditation and just put my headset on. I'll put an eye mask on. Breathing during it is very helpful. But I also have now gotten to the point where I try to take my meditation with me all day long. And that's been my current focus. And that means with every conversation, I try to be present. I try to connect to source energy, and I try to make a beautiful energy exchange, because meditation is really about an energetic process, right? It's an energetic practice. So I try to bring that meditation to every interaction that I have.
That is so special. I'm so glad you shared that last bit, because for me, that was yoga. I tapped into yoga when I was probably 17. I've been on and off the mat throughout my life. And I've had this knack of being able to bring my breath and my presence into moments when I needed it most. And I think it's such a great reminder that we don't always have to be in this quiet moment, but it's about being able to be present in our daily activities as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's what meditation really gifts us with, right? Is it when you keep practicing how to be quiet, how to be still, it does carry out into your day, and you get that beautiful presence in throughout the day. And
I love what it's about. Beautiful. And that just enriches our experiences from day to day, moment to moment. So, I'm really curious, Delphine, you started Delphine Circle, and how is that shaping your voice and your how's this platform shaped your vision for and your personal evolution? I mean, you've talked to so many amazing people from so many different diverse backgrounds. I just, you never know what's going to pop up on Delphine Circle. And it's always so fascinating, from wellness to conscious leadership to just so many arrays of great big personalities and artists. And
Yeah. Well, I love it, first of all. I started Delphine Circle again in 2020, and I was watching everybody kind of be in turmoil and chaos, and I just kept seeing the silver linings. I'm like, "Wow, I'm spending more time with my kids than I ever have. Wow, I'm cooking more than I ever have." And then I would see, the Venice rivers had cleared up, and I'm like, I feel like there's a lot of positive here that we're not seeing. And I thought, I think I'm just gonna start calling up friends. I'm kinda known to have a big friend group. I'm thinking I'm just gonna start calling up friends and asking them, what is their experience? Are they seeing silver linings? And many of these friends are leaders of industry, and I thought, I wonder how this is gonna impact industry. So, I was telling my girlfriend on the phone one day, and she goes, "Oh my god, I wanna hear those conversations." She's like, "Can you put them into a podcast?" And right after she said that, my whole body just, got chills, and I was like, "Oh my god, I think that's a great idea. If I still think it's a good idea in the morning, I'll try it." So I wrote down 10 names of, friends that are very prominent in their industries, or I would say have a claim to fame. And I just started calling them the next day. I'm like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing a podcast. Can I interview?" And they're like, "Oh, absolutely. Where Oh, I think sure, just tell me what to do." I'm like, "Wow, this is easy." So that's where it started. My first thought was, how much would I get out of hearing these stories? The second thing I thought of, how much would other people get out of hearing the stories? I think one of the biggest aha moments of the podcast was been how much the guests have told me that they've gotten out of it. And what's so interesting about it is that a lot of times when people climb the ladder and people perceive them as being very successful, people's behavior towards them changes. And one of the things I heard a guest say to me, and thought it was so profound, and he said, the more successful you get, the less you're allowed to talk about yourself. And I had never really thought about that. It's almost like the more success you get, people don't want to, they think you're bragging, or they think you're being, or you don't want to hurt somebody's feeling to show them how much. And so the more successful people get, sometimes they can get more and more isolated. They don't have people on their level. They think that people don't relate. People stop inviting you over because, they think, "Oh, I don't want to have him over at my house." It's like, it's an interesting thing that the more successful people get, sometimes the more isolated they get. And, in talking to these conversations, I realized that successful people, it doesn't make all your problems go away. And oftentimes it can amplify issues, with the more money or the more fame that you get. So, yes, I think I learned a lot about human behavior, and I certainly learned a lot about my friends. So thank you.
fascinating.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that it leads me to two questions. One, the segue into Harmonium. But before we go there, this sense of spiritual awakening, it's a phrase that gets used a lot. And I'm just curious to how you define awakening in your own experience and in your own words.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot now with Harmonium. So to me, to start with, I think most people can agree that we have both a physical and a spiritual aspect to ourselves, right? Most human beings and believe that they're on some level, they're both physical and they're both spiritual. So a spiritual awakening is when we put our focus or our awareness on the more spiritual aspects of ourselves, which means a deeper connection with ourselves and what's important to us. It's usually a deeper connection with nature and a deeper connection with the higher source or the creator or God or whatever your interpretation of that is. And I really don't think that there's necessarily a bad interpretation. Everybody probably has some sense that there is an intelligence beyond us that created life. And I'm super fascinated by that. I'm super curious by that. And so the deeper I get into what I'm calling my spiritual awakening, the more, I'm learning about myself and about the world around me. And Harmonium is a place to support people along their path and along their spiritual
Mhm.
awakening.
Yeah, and I'm finding, you just recently launched this. It's open to a global community. It's growing. And I find it's kind of taking on a life of its own. and I'm honored to be part of it. And the vision, I saw it immediately, and it's going to be, so your original vision for this, maybe you can share with those that don't know. And then, um, what do you hope people can discover? Talking about connection to spirituality, whatever that looks like for one person can be a wide rainbow of description from one person to the next. And hopefully, it's always evolving and continue deepening in all aspects.
Absolutely. Okay, so my original thought about it was that I wanted to create a space where people could be supported in whatever the path that they're on. A lot of times people go into personal development or spiritual awakening and they're excited about it, but they feel very isolated.
Mhm.
And, they are starting to learn more about it, but nobody in their family thinks or believes in this, or they've got into a daily practice and they don't really know where else to learn more. And I'll give you an example. With the retreats that I was running last year, we did a series of retreats, and we always followed up with the 1-week follow-up call. And I was seeing it consistently every time. People were so disappointed 1 week out because they were saying, I saw the light and then I went back home and I got into my daily routine again, and I haven't been able to keep up with my breath work, and I haven't really been able to keep up with my meditation, and I was trying to tell my husband about it and he was laughing at me, and I really don't have any friends. I don't know who to talk to about this. And I would just hear this over and over, and I thought, there needs to be a place where people feel like they can be supported and that they can really tap into themselves in a curious and fun way. And I think that that's what Harmonium offers people. It gives them a place where they can interact with other people, talk about their experiences, get guided meditations, breath work, chime in for a live frequency shift, do a master class, come out and meet other people that are in the same boat. And it's been such a beautiful experience to see it blossom.
So, Delphine, I have this question for you. You've been working on personal growth and spirituality. We touched on spiritual awakening, emotional growth, physical and mental, stretching our boundaries and finding connection with ourselves. But maybe even from like 6 months ago or a year ago from now, from your present moment, are there particular beliefs or patterns that you no longer feel aligned with, or things that you're stepping into that seems to be pulling you and bringing you into a space of new growth or ways of thinking about the world or yourself and the place in the world?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, I don't know if you've been feeling it, but to me, the world feels like it's really speeding up. Like every other day is Friday again. I'm like, wait a minute, is it Friday? Like, how did another week go by? So I do feel like there's an energetic kind of speeding up that's happening. And so just 6 months ago does seem like a long time ago. It just seems like so much has happened in such a short period of time. One of the things that I really felt like I had to let go of is, well, first off, my desire to control.
Mm.
You know, I am a doer kind of a person, and I, always believe that it was the one thing that I'm not in control of that's going to go wrong. So I better be in control of everything. And I really did believe that for a very long time. And one of the things that you learn in spiritual teachings is that the power of release and the power of just going with the flow. And that's something that I really embodied. I've really taken seriously to try to be more relaxed with my approach about things, to understand that there is a flow to the universe. And the more that you relax with that flow and you learn to go with the flow, the easier that life is. Not to say that you're not, taking care of your business, but you don't have to be micromanaging every aspect of every situation. It causes a lot of stress in the body, and you kind of steer yourself away from the miracles that the universe wants to give.
Oh, I love that. It kind of reminds me that the attachment to outcome, and like you said, surrendering to the flow. Maybe it's not the direction we thought we should go, but if we trust and surrender and
Yes.
let go of the attachment to outcome, oftentimes what does come can be well beyond our wildest dreams.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, it ties into your other question too about self-love. Like I had to go on my own journey to learn how to be loving to myself. And if you would have asked me even 2 years ago, do you love yourself? Are you loving to yourself? I would have been like, are you kidding me? I'm so like, I got that down. No problem. I totally love myself. But I started seeing signs that maybe I wasn't being that loving to myself. So I stopped and I said, okay, let me take a deep dive. If this is the message I'm getting, how does this resonate with me? And so I started analyzing my actions, and I started finding things like a little bit of self-critical talk,
Mm.
um, being hard on myself. Oh, look at I'm aging, or oh God, if I just was a little bit, tighter. Oh, look, my hair's that thing that we do to ourselves in the mirror, and I'm thinking, why would I do that? I wouldn't do that to anybody. I wouldn't want my mom to do that. I wouldn't want my sister to do that. Why am I doing that to myself? So I decided I was going to let go of that. Another thing that I used to do is I would be cheap with myself. Oh, I really want that vitamin or that supplement. I thought that would be great, but no, it's like $100 a month. I'm not gonna spend on that. And yet if it were my kids, I wouldn't even hesitate to get them what they needed. And I started realizing that in many, many ways, and especially with our kids, it's so common. I was putting myself second. I wasn't really taking care of myself to the same level that I was taking care of other people in my life. And these are just the little things that we do, and we're all kind of, can probably find ways that in ourselves that we're doing it. But I started saying, you know what? I want to make this change now. I want to do it to where I'm acting so loving. And so I started seeing the God in me.
Oh,
I started seeing the spark of God. And I know we all have that spark of God within us. And I thought, if I'm treating myself like that, I'm treating God like that. And so that was the little change, the little shift that helped me let go of that old behavior of not being super loving with myself into just saying, well, if I was loving to God, then this is how I would act. And that really helped to empower me along my path.
yeah, that's beautiful. It's like coming from a full cup, then we can serve more and be more loving and enriched and fulfilled with our outside relationships.
Absolutely. And the beautiful thing about these little shifts, and they create a momentum of positivity in your life. When you do these little things for yourself, when you are honest, when you're self-loving, it creates a beautiful flow so that you get those types of things back in your life.
Yeah.
And the more you go through it, tenfold, exactly, the better life gets. So my life has continued to get better in ways that I would have thought would have been maybe not as good, and it's continued to get better. So I feel like I'm onto something here.
Yes, you are. I love it. And I'm so excited to witness it and at times be part of the journey with you. It's just such a pleasure and joy. So for someone who's just maybe starting out on their spiritual journey or wanting to feel more tapped in, grounded, and centered, is there any sort of advice or something that maybe you wish you had known when you were just starting out on that journey?
That it would be so much fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have intrepidation. They're concerned that it's going to be difficult or painful or hard, and the reality of it is, it's so fun. It's fun to tap into yourself. It's fun to get to know yourself better. It's fun to see the little micro changes that you can make in your life that start building momentum into positivity. It's fun to see how people respond to you in a positive white light when you're doing things that are, also productive and elevating of yourself. So I think it's super fun. I think most people, once they get into it, they really love it. You start reading about spiritual teachings and you're like, wow, that makes so much sense. I started studying the Kabbalah last year, and I saw David Guillaume. I think we all have. He's such a beautiful teacher on social media, and he teaches the Kabbalah. And so I picked up the Kabbalah, and every chapter I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, because it's the same things that we kind of know to be true, but when you hear somebody say it from an ancient text from, the 12th century, you go, oh, so this truth has been true for all these centuries, and I'm just now like tapping into it. So, yeah, I think that it's fun, that it's not hard, and that there's going to be so much support. And once you start aligning yourself along those lines, you'd be surprised how the universe will open up a floodgate of synchronicities and miracles and people and support along your path.
That's beautiful. I bet you there's about 10 people watching this right now that are Googling Kabbalah, wondering what the heck it is. If you were to sum it up in a sentence or two, could you kind of let us?
Yeah, it's an ancient text. It was adopted by the Jewish faith, and so I guess a lot of children growing up in the Jewish faith will get to learn the Kabbalah. It's a beautiful structure of life is what it is. It's a framework of life. And it's so simple the way that they describe it. And the Kabbalists, the people who study and teach the Kabbalah, are very in support of self-love, unconditional love, aligning yourself with the light of the Creator. And it all just seems to make sense the way they write it out. And Kabbalah.org, I think, is or Kabbalah.com is the website, and it's for free or whatever your donation is to take the course, and it's super fun. I would recommend it to anybody.
Well, it sounds like it's some truths that resonate, and maybe universally, and maybe it's just almost like a soul remembering of the truths of existence and way of being that might just be so
Yes, I love that you brought that up, because that's so true. It's like the teaching is that we have all of the answers inside of us. We've always heard that, right? So when you hear something that is true to you, it resonates, and sometimes we get it in tingles, right? And when you
truth bumps,
when you get truth bumps, right? It's like, okay, your higher self is telling you, listen up.
Yeah.
You're onto something here. They give you a little nudge, and how beautiful is that? So yes, absolutely. It's a remembering. It's a remembering of the truth and of who we are, and little things that guide us along the path that can help us remember are good.
Yeah, and on that note, when we're making decisions, even if it's simple everyday decisions or maybe bigger life decisions, I always try to check in with myself and take a moment and be like, is this a hell yes or is it a e? So then, you don't have to always make a decision straight away, but you can always check in with yourself, and yourself pretty much is a really good guiding light.
So true. Pamela always says it's a hell yes or a hell no.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn it. I thought it was kind of in between. But once you say it has to be one or the other, it's amazing how you can make the decision.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, because I can tend to be on the fence sometimes too. So looking back, what's the one thing that you're most proud of on your path? And maybe the one thing that's calling you forward?
I think I'm super proud of how this work has helped me become a better mom.
Oh, wow.
And how it's helped me become a better friend and just a better human being. I really feel that in these past, 5 years probably, that I've really done a deep dive on my spiritual path, that not only has my life gotten better, but I feel like I'm literally a better person. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'm proud that I stuck with it. That sometimes things are challenging, sometimes times are challenging. And now that I've been doing it long enough, I've learned that the challenging times just aren't as challenging anymore, because I feel so grounded in my peace, and I feel so supported by all of the energetic frequencies around me, that now even the hard times aren't as hard. So I'm so proud of myself for sticking to it. And I really hope that I get to see and hear other people's experiences through the Harmoneum community. That's the thing I love so much, is when I get to see other people waking up and other people finding their truth and other people sharing their light. And that makes me so happy.
That is beautiful. And, when we're on that journey and we're really aligned with our actions and our truth and our authenticity, and a challenge presents itself, because that's part of life, we can maybe look at it with a different lens, where we might feel less triggered and more adaptable, more nimble, and more able to see creative solutions and maybe win-wins and course correct. Maybe, door number A was not the highest and best for everybody, and door number B, where you course correct, is where the next evolution and breakthrough is. So
absolutely. It's like not reacting, but coming from a place of proaction, right? And so pause, what a pleasure. You understand that every challenge is brought to you for a reason and for an opportunity of growth. And the bigger the challenge, the more exponential the growth. And so you start looking at every challenge like, why is this in my movie? What is this coming up? What is my opportunity here? What am I supposed to learn? And when you start looking at things in that life, you just don't get reactive anymore, because you don't think things are happening to you. You think that things are happening for you, right?
Yeah.
And when you start coming from a place like that, it's amazing how people around you notice that. And then you also get a better reaction, better relationship from the people around you because they see it. I mean, I've seen my kids, my relationship with my kids has grown so exponentially since I've been on my spiritual path. And I've already learned you're not going to talk into anybody into anything. So our role is not to preach. It's not to just tell people what they need to know. I believe our role is to embody the light, to be the light, to be the example. And there's nothing more powerful than being that example for yourself. And then people are attracted to that light. They're attracted to that energy. And then they come around like, oh, so what are you doing? What is going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
And that's beautiful, right? That's beautiful. And I've seen it in my kids.
Beautiful. And I'm seeing it in this worldwide community that you're creating. People are reaching out from all corners of the world and flocking to it like a moth to a flame. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's around the corner and be in the present too, and enjoy the ride, the bumps and the bruises along the way, and embrace the challenges and the growth with you, and support you in any way that I can, because together it takes a village, right? And so it's just such a pleasure and a joy to be on this journey with you. So I appreciate you, Delphine, and I could talk to you for hours.
We do.
And you do. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Trish. I so appreciate this opportunity to share the story, and I hope to see many, many more episodes.
And that's a wrap. That's our first episode with Delphine Channels on Elevate with Trish, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Elevate with Trish. Until next time, keep rising.